came here to support the community. We're really big in community support, community outreach, and this opportunity was a great opportunity for us to participate in. And again, pushing our app, pushing the digital top-up app, it tied into what this conference is all about.
We're here more so to talk about our service and our commitment, not just to the Caribbean, but to Haiti, which is something that is seen with 40 years of service. We expanded now to our second destination in Haiti, which is Cape Haitian, and we have several routes in the Caribbean opening up, including San Salvador. So it just talks about our commitment to the Caribbean as a corporate sponsor.
What I'd like to ask you is, what role does your company play in making technology more people-centric?
The reason why that's important, you now have the ability to really promote your message. You don't need Univision, you need Telemundo to be your own broadcasting company. You can do your own show, you can do a YouTube video and promote your message, whether that's a company message, whether that's activism. You have the ability now with a mobile device, as simple as that, is to record a video of yourself and get your message out there.
The new generation being able to share on Facebook, being able to share on Twitter, this is what I'm looking at, how cool is this, right? And being able to brand that with the museum or with the artists that they're looking at. So it's a wide variety of demographics. We haven't figured out how to do the Braille thing yet on the, but anyways, that's that joke. Anyways, right? But being able to stay cutting edge with your sharing of your experiences, because that's what we're about, right? We're about sharing, we're about building meaningful relationships with the establishment and also with the community as to what we're currently doing.
On the producing side of things, people have to learn to understand that technology, again, is a tool and has to solve a bigger problem, meaning you can't just give people this tool and expect them to use it how you intend them to use it, how to believe in your vision. They have to understand it for themselves. And on the user side, the consumer side of things, they have to learn to trust technology. There's a lot of places, like a lot of communities I've been to around the world, where they don't believe in debit cards because they can't see their money, so they think the money will disappear, let alone the cloud. Storing files on the cloud is unheard of. So educating them that technology is not something to fear, but to actually embrace and to make their lives easier. So a lot of our audience are tech entrepreneurs, or so-called tech entrepreneurs. So the way we kind of empower them is providing them with the resources they need outside of creating a product, actually how to build a business, how to build a scalable and successful business. And we put those resources together as well as combine the various resources of the community.
We live in a time where every month I look at the news and I see something that reminds me of being in the 1960s. Every month I look at the news and I see something that reminds me of being in the early 1900s. Every month I look on the news and I see something that could remind me of being in the late 1800s. And so when we talk about leveling the playing field, I feel like that's just going to take too long. What we ought to be doing is really positioning strategic individuals and strategic companies to achieve enormous heights and holding them responsible for building bridges back into the community. Because if we're talking about leveling the playing field, this is something that's been going on for a long time with disenfranchisement and disengagement in communities. When we look at the technology usage, I mean, we could talk about Compton, we could talk about the villages of Cuba, or we can talk about a shanty town in the Congo. But one thing that is holding true is that the African diasporic populations are underserved, underinvested in, and our communities are underdeveloped. And so, you know, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news when I say that, and I'm also not trying to be too radical, but I want us to realize that we need immediate wins. Which brings us to the other piece of this, which is about consumerism. So, if we have to balance the import-export for the U.S., why do we not balance the consumerism production ratio in the Black diaspora community. It's a $1.3 trillion spend just within the African American community. You add our Hispanic and Latina brothers and sisters, and that's $2.5 trillion. That's a nation. But yeah, we're not creating. And we're using things like Facebook, and we're using things like Twitter at disproportionately higher rates. In fact, the African American community uses Twitter at 28% versus 12% for whites, 14% for Hispanics. So much so that we have something called Black Twitter, and folks are still going to www.blacktwitter.com trying to find out where it is. Anyone know what I'm talking about? Folks, there is no such thing as a separate Twitter for black folks called Black Twitter. It's just a whole lot of black folks using Twitter. That's called Black Twitter. But with that being said, you know, how do you then create companies versus consumers? Because we have been propagating this conversation in our community. That's the digital divide, lack of access. We have more power in our cell phones that we are selfieing using, with the selfie stick using than we've ever had before. You have the power of the entire internet at your fingertips. And the New York Times did an article, and it was about the fact that the new digital divide is about wasting time on the internet. So what does that mean? It doesn't mean I don't have access to a computer. It means when I'm on the computer, I'm over here checking Facebook. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Not creating a new technology, because obviously I love it and I love what it can bring to my life. I'm wasting hours online not creating anything, but consuming something. That is the new digital divide. It's not lack of access. And when we talk about it in global terms, what we see is that when you go throughout the diaspora, the technologies that they're coming online with are mobile. So fintech is booming and has been booming outside of the United States. It's been booming in global developing markets because smartphones are easier to obtain than PCs. This is a market opportunity. And so, to me, that also brings me to the point of, if you can't be an ambassador for it, it's because you don't respect it. If you don't respect it, then you don't see opportunity in it.
I'm here today because of the work that we have been doing, specifically in Austin, Texas, around how to engage diverse communities and the technology growth that's happening in our city. And we really believe that this is something that can be replicated, not just across the country, but across the global African diaspora.
Well, we want to bring the entire Caribbean up to code, and we wanted to start with the kids because the kids are so important. And if you start with the kids first, then they can be our future, because they are our future. So now we have a conference for the adults, and we're talking about economics, we're talking about women and tech, we're talking about the Caribbean and the region and Miami. So all of these things interconnecting who we are as the Caribbean, which is the largest minority population as a whole, working population. We have 900,000 Caribbeans living here in South Florida. So it's really, really important that we continue to connect them with tech so we can be innovators and be diversified by diversifying the economy in South Florida.